Hello, everyone. Let's get started, shall we? Today, I wanted to talk about the universe and about our desires, Many of the people who come into my world are entrepreneurs. So it tends to be either our desire for a more successful business, our desire for more money, or a desire for ease, a desire for working less and receiving more, or our desires for love. And one of the main things that I run into with clients is I just feel like nothing's working. I just feel like what I want isn't really coming. And I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the things that people tell me I have to do. I'm breaking out all these tools that I've learned over the years, like of doing this work. And I just feel like nothing's happening. And I just wanted to address this because I know this is a common thing for most of us, that we get to a point where we just feel stuck when it comes to our desires. And you want them and you say, look, I'm decided. But why? So why hasn't it happened yet? And one of the main things that I ask people when they come to me and they say, okay, well, what is it that you actually want? And most people are like, well, I just want more money. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. Do you have something in place for that? What does that look like for you? And I start asking the deeper questions. The answer that I typically get back is, I don't know. I, I don't know. I just know that I want more. And I say to you, if this is you, if you know that you want more, but you don't know how you want it to come, you don't know what it looks like for you, you don't know what would feel great for you and how this would look in your life and what your life would look like if you already had it. And if you don't know the answer to these questions, and then I would say to you, well, then maybe that's your answer. You see, the universe loves clarity. And what I find the most is most people aren't clear. Most people do not have clarity around their desires. They have an idea of what they want and they're like, I think this would be great, but they're not ultimately clear on what this looks like for them. They're not ultimately clear on their desire. So what that shows up to with the universe is a lot like confusion. It looks like, okay, we want to give her this, but we're kind of confused on if she actually wants it. Does she actually want this or does she want something else? And they're like, well, I just want money to come in and I don't want to work for it and I don't want it to do anything. And then I'm like, well, great. Well, then that means that you're not willing. See, because here's the difference. When I want my desires to come in my business, when I want them to come in as far as success, when I want them to come in as far as money, and let's talk about those a couple things first. When I want them to come in that way, I've noticed in my body that they come in faster when I'm clear. When I'm clear and I'm sitting here like, look, I really want $10,000. I want $10,000 now in my business. I have use for $10,000 and $10,000 serves me. This is what I would do with the $10,000. Really, what that looks like for me is I would love that to look like a one-on-one client, a person I already know, upgrading out of their package. I really want an all-in package. I really want it to be something where, they're getting this, they're getting that. It's of high service to them. It's of high service. We can go really deep. I can get to know them. I want it over this span of time. When I come into a certainty energy like that, where I'm extremely clear on how I want it, I'm extremely clear what it looks like to me. It's not that I'm coming from this attached energy, like I need that $10,000 because, I need it to validate me, or I need that $10,000 because I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Not that energy, but the energy of deep service and a deeper energy than that. Because what I found is just manifesting money to pay your bills it's a frantic energy. And what that does is like, it typically comes in a frantic way. So when you're frantic about it and you're just in need and you're just in survival, a lot of times you're gripping tightly to the result, which makes it take until the last minute ultimately, because that's when you just like, fine, forget it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. There's nothing I can do about it. And you typically, when you get to that point of letting go, that point of detachment, that point of you're not micromanaging the universe, you're not gripping so tightly, you're not letting it breathe, like suffocating your desire. Typically when you get a point where it's like, it is what it is. And that famous saying, I say it all the time, that energy is usually your most powerful, because when you get to the point where it is what it is, there's nothing I can do about it at that point. That's when you're truly giving over. That's when you're truly letting go of the reins and you're allowing the universe to step up for you and to provide you what it is that you actually need, want, desire. And you're not attached to how it happens. You're just like, look, there's nothing else I can do. I did my part. I'm letting go. And typically that's when it comes in. And usually you're like, I don't even know how that happened. It always works out in the end. I don't know why I even bother stressing about it, because it always seems to work out. But I just really wish that I would know. And it's like, well, don't you already have that? If it always works out in the end, if you always get to the point where you know how things are going to work out for you, because they always work out, then you already know how it ends up. In the stress, the anxiety, the not knowing, and the wishing that you can control it, that's all a choice. That's all a choice. And the wishing you can control it is just you trying to keep control, because it's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of security, because even if you are like, well, I just want to know what to expect every month, but it's like, but at the same point, you love the thrill of manifesting. And it's like, knowing what to expect is a false sense of security. If you could choose to have that belief right now about anything, you can choose to say, well, I always know what to expect. It always works out. So therefore, I don't need to feel this discomfort. I don't need to feel this disheveled. I don't need to feel this. It's just, we become attached to it. We become attached to feeling this way because it's the way it's always been. And then not only do we come to expect it, we also learn to thrive in it. And a lot of us, it's not our fault. Some of that comes from conditioning. Some of it comes from childhood. Some of it comes from just, you get so in it. You get so used to that feeling because you know how to operate out of that feeling. But what you don't know is how to operate out of feeling of true stability, a true safety. And the safety always comes from with you, because I have felt safe with nothing and I have felt unsafe with everything. And I say that's how I know it's something internal inside of you. It's to the point where you're like, look, I'm choosing to be present in this moment. And in this moment, I'm okay. There's nothing else I can do. I did my part. And at some point, I have to let go and trust that there's other things working behind the scenes. And I have to trust that things are going to work out for me. And I have to trust that if they don't, that's also working out for me in some way. It's also going in the way that it's supposed to. It's also serving me in some way. And I will be okay, because I've always been okay, and I'm always going to be okay, because I know exactly how to get to this baseline and this point, and I'll get back to it quickly. I learned my lessons. The lessons served me, and now I can get right back to where I am right now. And in fact, I can probably get back to where I am thriving in this place and get here even quicker than what I've gotten here over time. And when you adopt this attitude, it gives you a sense of peace. But what sometimes people get stuck in the need to know. They get stuck in the need to have it all figured out, to have it laid out in a pretty little plan. And I can tell you, a lot of times it's not going to be how it looks for you in entrepreneurship unless you choose to adopt that idea. And this is where it comes into the choosing and the deciding. And it's not like we're deciding to have something. It's like we're also deciding that we're going to be regulated about it. We're going to decide it, that we're going to decide to believe, even though it looks like it's not happening, even though it looks questionable, even though it looks crazy, we're deciding to believe that it's still going to work out for us, because that's what's true. It is always going to work out for you. And that doesn't mean doing nothing. I always say have a willingness. That's why I say be clear, be certain with the universe, be so committed. Show that you're serious about it. Don't just say, well, I want this, but I'm not willing to actually be of service. I'm not willing to actually show up for it. If it came down to it, I'm not willing to work more, I'm not willing. Here's the thing is I believe by working less, we receive more, but I do believe in working. And it's like by working less, what I mean by is doing a lot of the unnecessary things and doing a lot of things out of a frantic energy trying to manipulate the universe. When I mean doing less, it's like we simplify. By simplifying, a lot of times people will think they're working and they're not. So it's like when you simplify and you make it more simple and you make it more clean and you make it more concise, your energy is freed up. So that way you have more creativity, you have more flow. So therefore you can attract in more money and you can attract in more clients. You can attract in more of what you actually want. But the thing is, there is work involved and I am willing to do what it takes because I want my desire. So if an inspired action comes to me, I'm willing to take that. If inspired guidance comes from somewhere else, I'm willing to sit with it. I'm willing to figure it out. I am willing to do whatever if it meant that I could have my desire. But most of the time you won't have to. And that's the thing that we have to sit with is although you're willing to do it, 9 out of 10 times you won't have to do any of the things that you're willing to do. You just have to believe that it actually will come to you and it actually will transpire. But if you're not willing, what message is that sending? Is that it's like, oh, I'm not willing to really do these things that are being asked for me to do. And it's like, okay, well, do you actually want it? Could you actually hold what it is that you actually want if you're not willing? Because when you, by being unwilling, you're actually not open. You're actually not open to the flow. You're actually not open to, it's like everything flows within a circle. And if the willingness is like an opening and it helps everything circulate. I'm unwilling to do something that's being presented to you to do, well, heck, that's the guidance. So each time you say that you're unwilling, you're literally closing the cap. You're closing the cap, you're closing the flow. So then it's having to redirect itself to you, but then you can't be upset of how long it's taking if you're constantly redirecting the universe. You're constantly saying, well, no, I'm unwilling, close off the flow. And then it's going in a different direction. It's trying to find its way through to you because you're decided, because you want it. It's trying to find a way in. It's trying to find, some way to get to you, but you're continuously cutting off the energy. And what I want to challenge you guys to do is to hold the energy, to keep the energy open, to keep the flow open, even when it looks uncertain, because that's faith, even when it looks like it's not happening, because that's faith, even when it looks impossible, because that's faith. We stay open, we remain open, we also remain willing, and we get certain and we get clear. So clear and certain. I want you to step into that energy and be unattached to it happening for you a whole different way than you could ever imagine, because there's stuff working in the background that you can't possibly be aware about. But it's the fact that that's clear, you getting clear will lead to certainty, which will lead to your desire flowing into you. And that's what we actually want. It was never about the plan that you had lined up. You're flexible on that. It's just the plan will help you tap into certainty. And that's ultimately the only thing required. And it's like, you get to also be like, oh, I'm certain. This is what I have lined out. But also, I have butterflies. Like, oh my God, is this actually happening? Oh my gosh, I'm nervous. You get to have that too. It's like you can be certain. This is where duality comes into play, because you can be two different emotions at the same time. Like I can be certain and I can also have fear. I can be certain and I can also be nervous. I can have certainty and I can also be like a little bit like, I'm certain. I'm so certain. But could this be real? And that's also when you're stepping into the point of potentiality, you do get in that, but you're more certain that this is what you want, that this is what you want. You're certain that you're willing. You're certain about that, not you're certain that this is actually going to happen for you. That's where faith steps in. And so people get all of these different things confused. And I'm just like, no, we just have to be certain we're willing. We have to be certain that we want it. We have to be certain about that. And then we allow ourselves to be nervous in that. that, oh my gosh, I just don't know what to do. That's where we let go. And that's where the universe comes into service. And I just wanted to drop all of that for you because I really feel like you listening to this and letting this seep into your self-conscious could release so much anxiety and so much stress and so much attachment. And it prevents you being in this needy energy all the time around your desire and around how it's going to happen. And also, it'll create more openness for you where you're actually willing to do the things that are actually being presented to you for a reason because your desires are trying to flow through. So, this guidance, these ways, these opportunities are right in front of you. And all you have to do is grab them. But a lot of times, even though we're like, oh, I want this, we pull back and we hold back and we pull back on our energy. And that's like putting the plug in. And it's actually like, oh, we're capping it. We're capping it. This is too much. This is too much. I'm too much. I can't possibly have this. I don't know what's going to happen and transpire from this. And I'm like, no, let it flow. Breathe it in, breathe it out, let it go. And see what magic actually will take place when you're not consistently cutting off the energy to it. See what unfolds for you because you already know who you are. You already know what you get when you cut off the energy. But who are you? And what comes to you if you actually stayed in the momentum? Who are you when you don't frequently cut off the energy? Who are you when you decide to actually let it flow? Ask yourself that. Play with that. Embody that. And if you want to go deeper into this, if you want to become more aware, if you want to go ahead and actually do this work to become aware of our energy, become aware of our emotions and how we're handling things, in order to actually open our energy more to abundance, then I invite you to come into, I have a few different things that could be for you. Number one is Decoded. It is my program that goes into awareness, hyper awareness of what we're feeling, what we're actually doing, what is the energy we're actually putting out. And the more aware you are, the more open you become. And when you become more open, your desires flow in, and it naturally creates a state of abundance and also a state of peace. Because when we're aware, the emotion is allowed to actually break up, break apart, break free instead of staying stuck there. Stuck, trapped, taking up space. We want to create more of a capacity, and that's what we do. So Decode It, number one. And number two, where we do the big Decode It is where we become aware and we tap into that power. And then we have Rapture, and that is where we integrate it all. That is my mastermind. It's my long-term mastermind. If you want support, long-term support in doing this work, long-time support in calling it, long-time support stemming from true overtaking of desires, overtaking of what you want, letting yourself be so overcome with it and also allowing yourself to receive it, then that is where you want to step into Rapture. Because in Rapture, we do that work. We are hyper aware, we are hyper focused, we are hyper open. And then we allow our desires to come to us at hyper speed. So if that is something that you actually want, you're welcome to reach out to me. Both, I would love to have you and welcome you with open arms. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you soon.